Welcome to episode 223.
You're listening to Escaping the REI Newbie Zone podcast, where you'll learn the underground, closely guarded secrets that will revolutionize your real estate business. This podcast is all about helping you exit the real estate newbie zone and enter financial freedom, building up your real estate throne. This is Escaping the REI Newbie Zone podcast. And now your host, real estate investor, entrepreneur, world traveler, and nationwide mentor, Chris Bruce.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Escaping the REI Newbie Zone. I'm your host, Chris Bruce. I want to say thank you and welcome to today's show. Thank you for tuning in to this week's show. We have a very special guest that is going to be joining us on the podcast today. All right, and we're going to be switching it up. You know, I've heard a lot of you guys' wishes. A lot of you have been talking to me and saying, Chris, you have a lot of wonderful men on the show. And where are the women? Where are the women investors? Where are the women successful entrepreneurs that are doing big things in the business and are successful? And when are you going to bring on the show? And I know we've had a few, but I want to start stepping it up and really bringing more women on, because I believe that the industry is shifting. I believe that there are a lot of women that are in the industry that are making power moves that are just as successful, if not more, than some of the men. You know, and I'm not a sexist or anything like that. I like to, at the end of the day, share everybody's story. And so what I wanted to do was bring on someone that is here locally in Tampa. She's doing really, really good. She's a realtor slash investor. All right, so she's into fix and flips. She's also wholesaled a few properties before. But she's crushing it right now, you know, in the Tampa local market. And so what I wanted to do was, you know, bring someone on that you can hear from a realtor's perspective. So it's a little bit different, you know, because I know a lot of the people that are on here are investors, you know. So she's a realtor first, but she's also an investor. And we're going to be talking about things like, you know, what are the benefits of working with a realtor? For those of you that are realtor and have been afraid of, should you, you know, put a company, you know, start a company so that way you can wholesale on the side? Will this be an issue with your brokerage? We talk about all of those things on this episode. So you're going to love this interview. And before we get into it, before I actually talk about who our guest is and go ahead and introduce her, we want to make sure that if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast, okay? You can do this quickly if you're on an Android phone, if you're on iTunes. There's a lot of podcast apps that we have that are out there. We are on Stitcher if you have an Android. We're on iTunes if you have an Apple phone. You can also subscribe to the blog, escapethenewbiezone.com. You can subscribe to the podcast from there. But just make sure you do it so once these come fresh out the press, you get notified and you'll know where you can tune in as soon as they drop every Tuesday and Friday. So let me go ahead and wait no further. Introduce my lady of the hour, my special guest, Cari Guzman. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Escaping REI Newbie Zone. As I told you before, I have a very special guest on the podcast today. I know a lot of you have been saying, Chris, you have brought a lot of successful men on the podcast, but we want to hear from the women. You know, we know there's a lot of women that's making big moves, that's really successful in the industry. So finally, your request has been granted. All right. And as I said on the intro, we're going to go ahead and welcome on my very special guest. I call it Cari G, since I don't want to mess up her last name. What's going on, Cari? How you doing today?
How's it going? I'm doing great. Thank you.
Doing good, man. I've been seeing you all on social media, selling all these houses, flipping these houses. So I'm glad to get you on the episode and share your story with the community. So tell me a little bit about how you got introduced to real estate.
Well, technically, I feel like I've gotten introduced to real estate like ever since I was young. Just, you know, I always had like an ear and an interest, you know, listening to anything that had to do with real estate. our president, for those who are in the U.S., was like kind of low key one of my idols because, I watched him grow in the real estate, you know, industry, and I always looked up to that. And like now he's our president. But besides that, um, just watching, like, just as I grew up, I just kept seeing that real estate is the place to be, or
Mm.
something to be doing if you want to be successful in life. Any kind of like self-help books or anything that has to do with investment or anything real estate is just like number one. So
Definitely.
that's what I went after. Um, but to be like clear how I started, I started working at a leasing. I started working as a leasing consultant at a an apartment complex, and then I just kind of worked my way up, from there. Not really worked my way up. Once that leasing office got a new management, they started just like letting leasing consultants go. And then at that point is when it hit me hard. Like, you know what? You need to just get your license and like stop playing around and stop working for someone else.
Gotcha.
So I went and got my license. I, was living off my uh, what's it called? Unemployment checks. And I just went, took the course. I studied really hard, and then I passed my state, which by the way it took me 8 times to pass, but
I
I
was just about to
passed
ask you
it.
that because everybody tell me that test is hard,
It's
man.
so hard. But I have some really good tips to give people. So whoever's interested, get back to Chris. We can exchange info and I can walk you through how I was able to pass, because I had to take it again for some other reasons. And I passed on the first try by doing just these little tactics and tips for me to pass, and I passed.
Cool, cool.
So, and I got like 4 other people to pass their test on the first try. So I wish I had a trainer like myself to train me. So yeah, but yeah, and then once that happened, but during that process, I started working for a company called Spin Realty, and my cousin Danielle is the one that actually introduced me. She was like, "Hey, there's this guy that said if you find investors, to buy their property, that they give you like a little commission or just some kind of little incentive, and it's just an extra way for you to make some money." And I was like, oh, "Okay, cool." So I had to put out signs for Spin Realty with my number and just let them know that we have lots of stuff in inventory. And Spin would just buy homes off the auction almost every day and
Mm-hmm.
just turn around and just resell it, under market value still always. So they were kind of like a wholesaler company. So I did that. So I was able to really like talk to investors, get to know all their needs and their wants, all the different types of investors. There's investors that are just buying things just to flip it around and sell to someone else. There's investors that are fixing to flip and resell,
Yeah.
or fixing for themselves as an investment and rent it out as a rental or Airbnb. So I got to like watch like all these different investors and just come in contact with them and connect with them. And I would always ask questions like, "How'd you get to this point?" That was like my number one
Right.
question, because obviously like that's where I want to be. Um, so yeah, so fast forward to now, that's where I'm at actually. I'm a realtor, and I buy and fix and flip and sell.
Gotcha. Okay. So Spin Realty is Lee Kearney a part of Spin Realty? I'm not sure.
Lee Kearney and Kenneth were.
Okay.
I believe I believe it's still there, but I believe they migrated and just, put all their fruits in another type of business, and I don't believe they're doing
Yeah, that's what I thought because
that.
it's so funny. Lee he used to be kind of like a silent mentor to me. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, we came out with this
I can see
program.
that.
Yeah, we came out with this program with another guy in the industry, and I learned how to flip houses from him. And then I flipped my second biggest deal to him back in 2014. So I know Lee really, really good. He's a cool dude, but he does have so many other businesses and stuff now. So.
Yeah. So yeah, so I did that. Then once I got my license, they were like a little upset that I didn't like sign with them.
Uh-huh.
not really upset. They were just like, man, like we would hope that you would come and
Right.
take your license with us. But I kind of just wanted to be, I just kind of wanted to fish around,
Yeah.
And then I started off with Keller, and I didn't really like Keller too much. With the way the split and the the commissions were, it just wasn't. I didn't feel like it was fair.
Right.
So I started fishing around for other brokerages, and that's when I, decided to go with Century 21 Beggins. So
Gotcha.
I'm
Gotcha.
part of a really cool group.
Okay. So you got your license. Obviously you work with investors. What are some of the things that, because I get a lot of people, since this is mainly a lot of people that listen to are investors. They don't necessarily understand all of the benefits that they could, that they would have working with like a realtor like yourself that is investor friendly, that's an investor yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, are you talking about just people in general, or just
so
investors?
say for instance, because there's a lot of people on the podcast, they're wholesalers, but they want to work with the realtor obviously because they don't have access to MLS, so they can't really get good comps and things like that. So,
right.
Like, what are some things that you would advise someone? Let's say if they're a new wholesaler, like how could they approach you? How could it be like a good working relationship between y'all two?
Well, I think what would be best is obviously, yes, like you want to work with a realtor because essentially working with a realtor is for free until something gets sold.
Right.
So it's kind of like, I would take advantage of using a realtor because I know I'm not paying that realtor anything if I'm buying something. You know what I mean? Or if I'm looking to buy something,
Right.
and the realtor can actually, write the contract and do the negotiations. You can actually walk your realtor through negotiations of how you want it to go. It's kind of like you don't have to deal with the direct seller yourself.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. You can get a faster, just everything could just be a lot faster and a lot easier for that wholesaler if they go through a realtor. Also, realtors have access to, like, we have in our brokerage a coming soon kind of deal. So let's say you do buy a rehab, and you want to get it marketed, but you don't want it listed just yet. You can have it listed as a coming soon, and it can drive buyers to that sign and to that number. And, it could possibly be like an off market deal. You know what I mean?
I like that.
And, and we could possibly find a buyer that way. And, you and the realtor can come up with something like, there's not always for definite, a certain type of percentage. Like, there's always an agreement and there's always, negotiations. Like, I feel like the realtor and the wholesaler needs to have like a meeting in the minds,
right,
and then just come to an agreement, to a price based on, because obviously everybody needs to get paid, right? Like, the realtor obviously is going out their way to, do all this work for you. You got to compensate them somehow. I know wholesalers don't. And then, like, another thing wholesalers want to do is, like, obviously flip the contract and stuff like that. Realtors have access to other investors as well,
right,
that actually want to buy and flip. So if you can feed them stuff like that, and they can, feed them product or, property or whatever, a realtor has access to a lot of different networks and things,
Absolutely.
So there's many reasons why. I could probably go on and on and on.
Yeah. No, I like that you touched on that too, because I also I tell a lot of the wholesalers too, form a relationship with a realtor, because what you can do when you come across properties that you can't even buy yourself because they might want retail, you can just give it to the realtor,
Right.
and you create that good relationship, that goodwill. What
Yeah.
I'm saying, that they'll want to help you out later on, with things.
Exactly.
Yeah. So definitely agree with that 100%. Okay, so obviously you're not just a realtor, you are a wholesaler as well. And we have some people that they get like scared, or they're like, well, I don't, how can I wholesale if I'm a realtor too? Like, my brokerage might trip. Can you talk about how you separate that, with the wholesaling from the actual, realtor side with the brokerage?
Right. So first things first, you want to just always be open. It's just like the term in real estate. You got to disclose everything. So I feel like number one, you should just disclose the fact that you are wholesaling too. So your broker knows. The advice your broker is going to give you is you need to open up an LLC.
Mhm.
Open up a business so that everything could be through your business name. Um, you always have to disclose it if you are a realtor and you are going to sell your property. Initially, that will be your property. If you're going to sell it, you have to disclose that you're an agent as well.
Yeah.
So if you look at sometimes when some of these listings, you'll see, agent owner, and that's because the owner is the agent. And then when you see the owner, it has their business name.
Right.
So it's okay. Don't be afraid or scared. It's okay. And then it's actually really good that you're a realtor because you can list your property with your brokerage, and you and your broker should come, like, for example, my broker, I'm on a 70-30 split right now because that's the bracket that I'm in. I need to sell more revenue to get a
Right.
higher percentage. But the fact that I'm selling my own property, they're just giving me a flat fee of $1,500
Okay.
as a, just marketing or whatever. So initially, like, there's no commissions going out. If another realtor comes in, obviously that's going to be the 3% for them, or
Right.
whatever you want to put it as because you're the owner.
Yeah.
Or you can sell it off market just as long as you disclose that you are a realtor. You just have to disclose that kind of information. So no, you don't have to be scared because you actually want your broker to know. You might find you buyers. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
your broker should always want to help you. You should never be afraid of your broker. You need to tell your broker everything because he's going to guide you. He's
Absolutely.
going to open up doors for you. So, so yeah, that would be my first step. And yeah, it's actually like a plus if you're a
Yeah,
homeowner
I
and a
agree.
realtor.
I agree. So let me ask you. Let me make sure this thing echo. Okay. So far as right now with the market the way it is, it's crazy. How are you finding like properties right now? Like, what is kind of the thing that you're doing? Are you using social media a lot?
Honestly, it's my follow up.
Okay.
My follow up, my past clients, reaching out to people, letting them know, reaching out to other people because I know there's a lot of people I haven't talked to that I did talk to at one point. Sorry, I'm getting calls. At one point, there are people that wanted to buy. So I've been reaching out to those people first.
Gotcha.
Like, hey, Happy New Year. Are you interested in buying or selling in 2019?
Mm.
Kind of spark up a conversation. See where their heads at. Then you'll be able to separate and figure out who's really to buy and who's not. And you follow up with them later. Another thing is, as on a realtor basis, I've been trying to do open houses for anything that's hot right now. Any top agents having a lot of listings. There's a lot of top agents in my office that, got some multifamily units, a lot of them, and they need to sell. So I'm trying to do as many open houses as possible because I get leads that way. So now I have like a whole bunch of leads from these open houses because these leads might not want to buy the open house that I was in,
Right.
but they might need something for later and they're not working with anybody. So it's perfect. You get to connect with that person and it's your job to just stay on them. Like, if you feel like, oh my God, how come, I don't have any deals? That's because you weren't going out there fishing for them.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't going out there finding the person that really needs your help, so that's kind of like that. Also social media, I have a lot of people that comment and stuff like that. So randomly one day, because I start getting desperate. Like, now that I have this Q1 goal, so my Q1 goal out there for all you realtors, and then you could do it too. Give yourself an super easy goal. Just get someone under contract, one person under contract per week. It could be a buyer or it could be a listing. Just get one. So call people at your job, your gym. just have it in your head like all day long. I need to get one person. Like last week I got something under contract, and now this week I'm going to have 2 under contract. And it was just for putting that one goal in my head.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, that means February I'm going to have like 3 closings.
Yeah.
You know, so my initial thing is that once February hits, February, March, April, May, June, July, all the way until the end of this year, if I stay in the mentality and the course that I'm on right now, I will have 1 closing per week, maybe 2 or 3 per week.
I like
you know,
like
so that's really gonna like I'm really gonna hit my goal then, and maybe even exceed my goal. You know, so I'm just trying to have the same energy, being super disciplined on my time. You know, only do a certain only work out at this time, only do showings at this time. You know, well, obviously showings are priority. You know, because you're obviously gonna be meeting people, but you want to really discipline your time and let other people know that you have something that you're doing, so don't take me off track. So it's either business or don't waste my time.
Gotcha.
You know, or whatever. So that and then last but not least, I've just been attacking for sale by owners on Zillow. The ones that have been on Zillow for like more than 100 days. So I think instead of calling them because they're not answering my calls, I'm going to go knock on the door and just, you know, do a price analysis, give them something. You always want to give something to a for sale by owner and be like, hey, listen, like, obviously this isn't working. You know what I mean? Won't you give me a chance? Do an interview with me. Let me help you some kind of way. If it's money, we'll try to make it work somehow.
Yeah.
You know, you can always get the buyer to pay commission if need be. If that buyer really wants to, negotiations can go crazy. It doesn't matter which way, but you got to at least bring them up, and it'll just put a light bulb in people's ear and be like, dang, I really want this. So you know what? F it. I'm going to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's all about just talking and seeing what you can make shake.
Yeah. So let me ask you, Cari, what inspires you to go so hard?
Being broke. I'm tired of being broke. I'm a single mom, and I have big goals. I got big bills too. So, you know, I just want a change, you know, and change ain't gonna happen unless I change. So I'm just trying to, like, you know, being in this business, I learned a lot early. You know, I've always had this hunger since I started. Like, I got licensed in 2016, August 2016, started trading in September, and I went under contract in November and closed my first deal in December.
Okay.
So I made sure I was like on it, you know, and I just kind of stayed that way. This past summer, I had a really good summer, and the reason why I want to do it all this year is because I did it over the summer. April and May, I just really got crazy because, like, I was splitting bills with roommates.
Okay.
And I decided to just branch off and just be closer to my office. I moved to South Tampa, which is a little more pricier than where I was. I was in Land O'Lakes, and I had a big house, but we were all splitting bills. So it was like so cheap. It was perfect. But the commute was like insane. And my area is over here in South Tampa. Not really my area. Like, all of Central Tampa is my area.
Right.
But I really wanted to focus
in
being in South Tampa and marketing and selling and buying in South Tampa. So I moved over here, which is a lot more expensive. So I knew that I had to meet a certain quota every month. So I know that I had to grind a certain type of way to do that. And I did it. I grind like all March, April, May. And then, believe it or not, June, July, and August, I had a closing every week. I had 2 closings in 1 week. Nice. So I had an amazing summer, and it felt good to hold a lot of money at once, you know, and just have checks coming in every week, because, and big checks, obviously, because it's real estate, you know, 3% or more. So, you know, so it was great. It felt good.
One thing you touched on I like is that you forced yourself to get out your comfort zone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You say you moved to South Tampa and knowing that it's a little bit more expensive, knowing it's going to be a little challenging. Like, I tell people, man, that's what you got to do to really, like,
with a kid.
With the kid. Like, you have to do stuff. It's crazy, but you have to do that to get out of your comfort zone and get to the next level. Like, I remember when I moved to Harbor Island and I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to afford this joint, you know, but whatever. I made it work, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's sometimes we gotta do because it's so easy to get in that comfort. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, complacency was like taking a hold of me, and I didn't like that.
Yeah.
And you know, I was getting complacent, like, oh, you know, I'm content like this, and I'm like, no, you're not. That's not what you put up on that board. You know, I started doing vision boards like a few years ago, and it really helped me. And every year I look at my vision board and I'm completing something. So now my vision boards are like changing, and you know, and it's awesome. I really encourage people to do that because it works.
Gotcha. So do you create your vision board like top of the year?
Yes. I made it a trend with my daughter. I think this is our 3rd year now.
Okay.
My daughter's in 8th grade. She's a big girl. She's 14.
Gotcha.
So now I'm like really trying to like, so first we write down everything. We like to do it New Year's Eve so we can get started, you know, New Year's Eve. That's kind of like a trend we started. And then we are supposed to print out the pictures and like paste everything like the first week of January, really get into that mode, you know, clean the house, spring cleaning, start putting away, like getting rid of stuff, just really just getting ready for the new year, getting excited for the new year.
Yeah.
And just trying to like, you know, just with everything too, life, fitness, eating, everything, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, so.
So let me ask you this. So what do you do to like keep that strong mindset of, you know, positive? Because obviously we all know real estate business is up and down. There's great months, there's slower months than, you know, the others, and, you know, there's challenges. So like, what do you do to like keep you on that positive note?
You know, it's so crazy that a lot of people like say that there's like slow months and stuff like that, but there's really not, because if you put in your head that there's always somebody out there that needs somewhere to live and there's always a problem. You make money off of people's problems. Yep. There's always a problem, no matter what slow season it is, because if it's slow, that means short sales are about to start popping. Right. You know, so I think it's about you kind of jumping on a niche and figuring out that niche and making that niche work for you. And if that niche is dying out, you need to find another niche that's popping. Gotcha. And learn that niche so that you can never really have a slow month, you know? Yeah. I used to hear people like, oh, it's so slow, there's not a lot of sales going on. Like, yeah, there's not a lot of sales going on, but there's a sale out there somewhere. You know, it's order for you to find it, you know? So yeah, you might grind a little harder than others. So I try to keep that in my head, like when I'm just like, oh, nothing's really going on for me, you know? I just try to put in my head, like, no, it's not that nothing's going on. It's that you're not doing enough. You need to get out there. Like, I have my inner person telling me, like, you need to get out there. Somebody out there needs your help. You better go find it. So whether it's door knocking, like, switch it up. Just, you know, don't do the same thing all the time. Try to do things that are different. You know, stuff like that. And then I read a lot too. So I feel like reading, like your study materials, like what you're studying to be or what you look up to be or how you want to be, you should read stuff, read on it, because it's going to help motivate you. Like when I read my books, like sometimes I get so into it and I'm just like, oh my God, it's like 1:00 in the morning to go to sleep. But it just gets me so hyped for the next day. I'm like, God, this person did it. Like, why I can't do it? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I love that. I do a lot. And then obviously my kid. I don't have time to like sit here and be like, I'm not motivated, you know? I just can't. Like my kid's like, you know, I gotta be an example to her every day, not to be lazy. Right. Because be lazy. Yeah. Makers are lazy.
That's true. I mean, I remember when I quit my job for this business. And my daughter was 1, and people was like, yo, you crazy. What are you doing? Market is... I was like, listen, man, I'm going all out. I ain't playing, putting my cards in this job hand, and they firing people left and right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I gotta get to this real estate money. So, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I think if you have a stronger why, which it seems that you definitely have, that's what's always going to keep you going, because I think so many people that are interested in getting into the business or whatever, all they're thinking about is money and they're thinking about themselves. Yeah. And, you know what I'm saying? When something hit the fan, they're like, I just, you know, go do whatever, or do something else or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to get excited about the money, You know what I mean? And it's easy to just have that can be your drive, but you have to think like the money's always going to be there. It's how are you going to make a difference for that person to keep doing business with you?
Right.
Kind of experience you're going to give, what kind of dedication you're going to show to the next person, because this is a people's business.
Absolutely.
So you got to have people to work with to make money, because if you don't, then you're not making no transactions, you're not doing anything. So you got to be a people person, that's for one. And you got to know what people's needs and wants are. You got to always think about their needs and wants, and there's just know the money's always going to be there.
Absolutely.
The money's there. It's just, it's.
You just got to go find it.
Yeah, you got to go find it, and you got to make sure it goes through. The transaction goes through.
Exactly. So, do you ever watch what's that show, $1 Million Listing?
No, I've never watched it. It's so funny. I meet people all over like the world. I travel a lot, and I go to a lot of events and stuff. And people always ask me like, "Have you ever watched?" And you know what? It's so sad. I haven't not watched $1 Million Listing. When you're an investor / realtor or just an entrepreneur itself, honestly, you don't watch shows or TVs. I don't. I don't watch anything. I'm like reading or I'm watching someone's YouTube something. Yeah. A YouTube something on how they did this or how they did that. Like right now, I'm trying to learn trading.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get into trading, and it's just something that I want to pick up and learn how to do. So I've been watching a lot of videos on trading and stuff like that. So gotcha. I don't watch the shows. I try to watch shows, and it's just like I feel like I'm wasting time, and I should be doing something else.
Oh man, that's so funny you say that. That's exactly how I felt for like. I ain't gonna lie, I just really started watching TV when I had my son, because I was like the same way. Like I always was like, yo, I still to this day I don't watch the news. People be like, yo, did you see this happen? I'm like, no.
I got Fire Stick, so I don't watch them, but movies. Like if I do watch TV, I'm watching a movie. Yeah. And half the time I don't fell asleep on it because I'd be so tired. Yeah. So it's like I don't even have cable. I refuse because that's like another unnecessary bill.
Oh yeah, it's a waste of time.
So there's no news for me. I watch news on my Snapchat though, like Daily Mail.
I just look at other people, put it on social media. That's how I found out because
right. I see all my news on social media.
Yeah, really. Cool. Well, I mean, it seems like you definitely have a lot of great things going on.
Thank you.
One thing I would say that I like about you is that you stay driven. You're motivated. Like you are out there hustling. You're doing things that a lot of people don't want to do. Like you said, it's crazy. Some people, they want all this stuff, but they're not willing to do like the door knocking or, you know what I'm saying, going out and beating somebody at 7 o'clock it's like, yo, if you want this as bad as you say you want it, you got to go all out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I definitely salute you for doing that. Maybe one day you can start teaching some of these people.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to talk and talk about, everything, like just try to help them in any kind of way for motivation. Because I think that's people's main problem is like motivation. Like a lot of people don't have motivation, or they don't even know where to find it. Like they know they want to do something, it's in their head, but it's like, like how do they do it? Why are they so motivated? I don't feel motivated, right. And it just starts with mindset. So my advice is just pick up a book and read it. Pick up a good book, a book that interests you for your mind, to train your mind, because that's the first thing you got to do. You got to train your mind.
Yep.
Once you train your mind and you go out there and get it, and you got to fail a lot, because let me tell you, I failed a lot. I got a lot of no's and a lot of nothing for a while, but I made it happen, and now it's just coming, so it's awesome.
Gosh. Okay, so real quick, what is one book you recommend someone to read?
What book?
Yeah, just randomly. What book would you tell everyone?
Think and Grow Rich would be my first one.
Love it. I love that book.
Think and Grow Rich, yeah. That's for everybody. For women, they have Think and Grow Rich for Women.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, it's a really great book. Girl Wash Your Face is a really good book. What else? There's a lot of good books. That Subtle whatever Art of Not Giving a Fuck is a good book.
Yeah, I love that book.
The Millionaire Real Estate Agent is a good book. I have a whole bookshelf. I'm just looking at all of them.
Okay.
The Compound Effect was a great book.
Yeah, Darren Hardy.
No Excuses is a good book. So I read a lot of books. Rich Dad Poor Dad was my first book. That's what really got me started. So maybe you guys should read that first. Rich Dad Poor Dad. You start getting that mindset, and then read Think and Grow Rich.
Gotcha. All right. So final question I'll ask everybody. If someone is new, they're trying to figure out how to do that first deal and escape the newbie zone, what advice would you give them?
So when you're trying to do your first deal, you need help, especially if you've never done one before. You need somebody that's done it before. So you need to find somebody that you can trust and that you feel comfortable talking to, and that person has to be willing to kind of walk you through each step, because that's what I did.
Gotcha. Okay.
The reason why I left the first office that I was working at was because when I did call somebody to help me, I couldn't get a hold of anybody, and another realtor from another brokerage actually walked me through it. And it was crazy because, and then after that she was like, you might want to come to my brokerage and work over here. So so I would say if you have your first deal, that's for a realtor standpoint. For a wholesaler, get a realtor to help you.
Perfect. Okay. All right. And so, Cari, what's everybody, if they want to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
I don't mind giving my number.
Don't give your number. We got too many listeners. You don't want no crazy people calling you.
Okay, never mind. Contact me on Instagram.
Okay.
DM me on Instagram. It's Realtor Cari _. That's it. So it's REALTOR Cari, which is CARI _, and that's it.
Perfect. All right, guys, and I'm gonna make sure that I include a link to her Instagram on the show notes of this podcast. So I appreciate everybody tuning into this episode. I'm pretty sure you got a lot of value from it. Cari, I appreciate you being on here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. And if anybody has any questions, go ahead and DM me. I will help you. If you need some help on deals, we can talk about that. So thank you so much for having me, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Perfect.
Thanks for listening to Escaping the REI Newbie Zone podcast at www.escapethenewbiezone.com.